So with Eminence and Shadow Season 2 in full swing, I feel it's time to discuss the main man himself, Cid Kagenou A.K.A Shadow. This guy is so strong, it's hilarious. He takes the cliches from most Isekai anime and fully embraces the cringe.
I need more power.
I mean, his main attack is literally an atomic bomb. Cid is honestly so cringy, and he's such a Chunubyo, it's ridiculous. And yet, his power does back up his ridiculous mindset. But his raw magical power isn't the end of it either, as his most powerful attribute is the fact that all of his lies end up becoming true. I mean, it's like King from One Punch Man. But you are here to hear about his feats and how overpowered he actually is, so let's rewind to the story's beginning. You've heard of many Isekai protagonists. They're a loser in their previous life, and they die by a truck goon, they're reincarnated, and they're a total badass with insane powers and a harem, of course. But Cid Kagenou, he's built different. I mean, he's still an overpowered badass with a harem that's possibly the biggest I've ever seen, but I more mean the fact that he wasn't actually a weakling or anything of the sort in his previous life. As even back then, Cid was a total beast in combat. When a girl is kidnapped, he sees it as the perfect opportunity to demonstrate his skills. Yep, he doesn't really care if she's safe or not, but cares more about showing how much of a badass he is. So what was his secret identity? Stylish ruffian slayer. Yeah, I'm serious. Despite this interesting name, Cid is able to match a military man who has had years of combat experience, and when overpowered by him, he reveals that he was holding back the entire time, as he's almost superhuman with his strength, using his favourite weapon, the crowbar, to annihilate him. Cid breaks the guy's arm with it and said he's been going through destroying biker gangs. He's been humiliating and killing so many of them that he got the nickname Balaclava Berserker. Again, cringe as hell, but that's kind of the point. By the way, I do want to do more videos on Cid Kagenou / Shadow, about his whole story up until this point and how different he is to other main characters. So if you do want to see that and other future Isekai and anime videos in general, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell, as this hurt my soul. Anyway, Cid kills the military man with zero hesitation, showing that unlike other protagonists, this guy will kill you in an instant if he wants to. After rescuing the girl, he realizes he's nowhere near strong enough if he actually struggles that much against an ex-soldier. I mean, in my opinion, it didn't seem like he struggled at all, but anyway, after this whole situation, you know, planning to get stronger, to train more, he dies to truck goon. Yep, this is an entire video on how strong Cid is, but no one, and I mean no one, is safe from the serial killer that is Truck Goon. He reincarnates, and this is where he becomes the most broken main character ever. I'm serious, in terms of being overpowered, no one is as high in the clouds as him. Now, he's reborn as Cid Kagenou into a world that of course has magic power floating around. Cid's life outside of his secret identity is purposely boring, but to go into his true power, we need to discuss his secret identity, Shadow, and all of his abilities, starting with his physicality. Like I mentioned, Cid was already a monster in terms of physicality in his previous life, but when he's reincarnated, it hits a new level. Cid's speed was calculated to be around 1,200 kilometers per hour, making him almost 97% the speed of sound. And this is only one documentation, meaning that his true speed is most likely way higher. And this is proven by the fact that we see him being able to dodge bullets easily, which proves that the previous statement of, you know, him being 1,200 kilometers per hour was wrong, as a bullet from an average 9mm gun travels at 1,260 kilometers per hour, and if he can react easily and even watch the bullets whizzing by him, yeah, he's way faster than that. But the reason he hasn't shown how fast he is yet is because no one's challenged him enough. His speed makes him fast enough to leave after images in his wake, and even one of the strongest in the world, like Beatrix the War Goddess, could barely react in time, and whilst in the fight with Beatrix, he wasn't even trying. Even as a child, Cid's body was far stronger than it had any right to be. Obviously, his slime magic helped, but as shown in the fight with bandits, no one can even lay a finger on him, and Cid is always studying and training to become stronger as an adult, so yeah, he's unstoppable. When cosplaying as Mundane Man, he man, that name's so stupid it made me cough. He won an entire fighting tournament with ease without using magic. And as proven in the Sanctuary, he can actually rip people's heads off without even using mana. Cid's durability is also next level. He knows the typical anime trick of moving your internal organs out of the way whilst in a fight, you know, something that Goku did very late in the Dragon Ball Super manga. So he basically can't die. Because of his hyper regeneration, Cid calculates that he'll live over 600 years.
What will you have after 5 100 years!
But he says that this isn't enough, as shadows must live forever. I mean, if you look at when he fought Olivia, he said that dodging an attack is annoying when you can just take the attack head on, leaving yourself with a perfect counter-attacking opportunity. Yeah, that's a very normal conclusion. Speaking of Olivia, she was seen as a complete monster by even Aurora. Obviously, this was Aurora without magic, but the point still stands, and yet Cid was able to compete with her without using any magic, which is just insane. Swiftly moving on to something that people don't really consider when talking about Cid's powers, and that is his intelligence. Yeah, he's not the smartest in many situations. I mean, Alpha is way smarter than him, and many of his subordinates in general are, but Shadow messes up all the time with his plans, but he's got that power of luck on his side, so it all goes his way in the end. Well, apart from when it backfired and he has all of his gold stolen, but I digress. Cid's battle intelligence is actually extremely impressive and surpasses everyone. He's able to look at techniques and copy them with ease. He showed this capability when he fought Beatrix and Iris while using vampiric attacks. Also, like I mentioned before, taking a sword through the abdomen, which even if you do survive is gonna hurt like a bitch, and then using it to counterattack is something only he could think of. When Cid had his magic sealed, he figured out a way to reinforce and solidify his magic to the point of being usable even under the power of anti-magic, making Asta useless against him. But in all seriousness, he said that gaining his magical abilities back like this was simple. Yeah, sure it was. And by the way, another thing to mention about his intelligence, you know, in battle, is when he fights Alpha as John Smith. Alpha uses a technique that turns it into mist, and you may think that the mystics are unstoppable, but Shadow finds a way around it instantly. He knows that, yeah, it's all impressive, but you have to solidify to actually land an attack, which is where he catches her. And not just that, it makes you lightweight, causing him to just use wind pressure against her, which makes this another easy victory for him. Now, moving on to martial arts, Cid was already a master in Japan, which makes his fighting way more advanced when compared to this world. As remember, when Cid was talking about his skill at playing the piano, he stated that this was the case. So chances are when it comes to basic martial arts and MMA, I doubt that this world is on the same level since they highly rely on magic. Even if they were on the same level as Japan and Cid's previous world in terms of martial arts, it wouldn't matter as Cid hasn't stopped studying in the art, combining both of his life's experiences. Cid has proven over and over how skilled he is, as Alexia stated that his techniques were beautiful and the way he fought was the most sophisticated she's ever seen. Now, moving on, it's time to go over Cid's most powerful ability, which is of course his magic. That might sound contradictory given the fact that I just said everyone else focuses too much on magic, but his mana is what allows his martial arts to hit a new level. Beatrix's swordplay was stated to be at the same level as Cid's, but her magic left a lot to be desired. Iris, on the other hand, relied purely on weapons and magic to carry her. Shadow has all of these abilities combined. Cid can seemingly do anything with magic. He's a complete anomaly from the get-go, as his mana differs in colour compared to others, being shades of blue and purple despite typical magic having a red hue. Cid can cure possessed beings, aka people with magic overload, with his magic. Through doing this, they get a boost in power since they technically received a portion of his power with them. And Alpha was the first to receive this gift, which was the beginning of Shadow Garden, aka Shadow's personal army of the baddest in the world. In all seriousness though, I think this army is one of Shadow's most prominent forces. Not just in terms of the fact that they are the brains behind most of his plans, plus they have the intelligence and the sheer numbers to make all of his plans possible. I mean, there are over 600 members. That isn't why I'm talking about them today. As I said, Shadow gave them a tiny sliver of his mana, and I mean barely anything for him, and yet they all become monsters after gaining just a tiny portion of it. Just looking at Alpha, you can see how ridiculously strong they can end up being. Cid at the age of 10 years old could already lift giant boulders with one finger, and when enhanced by magic, he could run twice as fast and jump twice as high as a horse. And also, he has his Excalibur, which is also about the size of horses apparently, given by Alexia's reaction. And like a true Isekai protagonist, when someone tries to measure his power, they can't, and the device just comes up with an error. Cid also stated that the sheer amount of magic isn't all that matters, but how you use it. Going off what Cid said, if someone's control and compression of mana is skilled enough, the power can be multiplied 1,000-fold. So if you think of anything someone could do with magic, Cid has already done it and likely trained it for years. But we can truly see how strong Shadow is when you compare him to the other calamities of this world, and two specific instances come to mind for me. The first is when he fought Aurora. Aurora was once known as the Witch of Calamity, having the power to destroy the world, and she was spawned as an equal to Shadow, a worthy adversary, but we see that that just isn't true. Shadow was extremely impressed when she attacked, but he realised that he couldn't fight with his full strength, ultimately leaving him a little unsatisfied as he easily dealt with her, meaning that Shadow just nonchalantly dealt with one of the most terrifying people to ever live, and not just that, it was light work. And on top of this, when Shadow used his all-range atomic blast against Olivia to free them from the sanctuary, Aurora was left in disbelief, asking how could anyone be allowed this much power? And she she is a true monster herself, as she can copy attacks in an instant, much like Cid. Even Shadow's atomic. Even though it's likely to a much lesser extent, she was able to copy this attack to fight with Elizabeth, but her body couldn't handle the strain as she was stuck in Cid Kagenou's body. Now, speaking of Elizabeth, she's the second instance that shows no matter who you are, you stand no chance against Shadow. Elizabeth is a vampire progenitor, basically a god in this world. As I mentioned, Aurora held her own, and if in her real body, yeah, she also would have destroyed Elizabeth, which further displays how ridiculous Shadow is, as even Aurora was nothing when compared to him. She says she was simply buying time for Shadow to arrive, and when he does, oh boy, this woman couldn't even be touched before. Not even Beta could leave a scratch on her, and apparently she could wipe out entire countries with her power if she was at 100%. Shadow again enjoys a fight as they battle Medea at a speed that no one could even follow. And yet, Shadow is still holding back. This is probably not even 1% of his power. He fights her while protecting all of his comrades like a true hero. Oh, he actually did this to protect his money. Okay, that's insane, but it's actually a more impressive feat when it comes to power levels, since he has to intrinsically control his power to protect all of these tiny coins whilst fighting, and everyone knows that this fight was child's play to him as he completely outmatched her in every way. But you guys have clicked this video to hear about Shadow's most powerful attack. Yes, it's finally time to talk about Shadow's unique nuclear magic. Cid wanted to conquer nuclear explosions in his previous life, and through intense training and determination, he arrived at a single conclusion. He simply has to be nuclear himself. We have seen this attack multiple times throughout the series, first when Shadow saved Alexia, and used this now iconic attack. When fighting Zenon, he toys with him, while demonstrating his swordsmanship that Alexia's state has reached the level of transcendent, making him literally godly in terms of swordplay. Before Zenon swallows multiple tears of Diablos, which magnified his magic by an incomparable degree, which ended up not mattering, as Shadow still continued to toy with him and throws away his sword when Zenon says he's almighty. So he shows him what true almighty looks like. He activates his atomic attack, and whilst doing so, Zenon tries to swing his blade into him, but his sword shatters against Cid's leg, and he is disintegrated along with an attack that's the size of a town. Keep in mind that this was Shadow still holding back not to kill Alexia, reducing the range to keep her safe. Everyone looks on in amazement, fear, and pure confusion, as this is the first time Shadow showed what he is truly capable of to the public. Now onto his second showcase of Atomic. This was against Olivia, as I mentioned earlier. After being exhausted from his magic being sealed and having to constantly reinforce it to the point of being usable, even Cid was tired and he was just stabbed twice, but he still pulled off the I am the all-range Atomic, shocking even Aurora, breaking a seal that was only supposed to be broken by the Holy Sword. But rules don't constrict Shadow as he breaks free and later goes on to fight both Beatrix the War Goddess and Iris Midgard at the same time. These two are known to be some of the most powerful people in the land, especially Beatrix, and Shadow simply toyed with them. But playtime eventually ends as he demonstrates what his Atomic can do. He's always holding back, but here, his magic range increases to a level we've never seen before, as he seems to cover the entire country with his magic, as both Beatrix and Iris look on in horror, realizing that this guy wasn't even using 1% of his power against them. I mean, he was f***ing them up with a crowbar, for God's sake. But this time, the attack actually was for show, so he could escape easily. But he definitely could have done the attack if he wanted to, but thankfully, no matter how weird Cid is, he's not a complete psychopath. At least, not most of the time. After this showcase of power, Iris crumbles. It breaks her as a person as she cries, realizing that she'll never be close to him. And Beatrix simply says that there are realms that no mortal could ever reach, proving once again that Shadow is a god in this world. His latest Atomic was in Season 2, and it's extremely unique when compared to the destruction that the others have caused. Named Recovery Atomic, instead of disintegrating people, it does the opposite. It regenerates them. Yes, it still does damage to structures around him, but he manages to revert those tender vampires and ghouls back to normal, meaning that this guy can basically cure anything. So Shadow is not just overpowered, he's straight stupid, and realistically is one of the people who shouldn't have got this much power, but boy are we glad he did. Well, I was just about to end this recording and then saw the recent episode, so let's quickly go into that, shall we? This recent episode of Eminence of the Shadow just proves pretty much all the points I just said, that this guy's completely ridiculous in terms of power. To start off with, Cid just annihilated Ragnarok, which is obviously known to be the event that causes the end of the world, and he literally cut it up like it was nothing. And then he flies up to space and uses his most powerful atomic ever, finally using his true power, and it's ridiculous. He is so strong that his power resembles the sun. People think it's early dawn because of how ridiculous it is. It's so strong that when Cid tries to explain how his power works, he literally can't. So yeah, honestly, this episode was the perfect cherry on top to my video, so despite me having to edit a little bit more and, you know, voice this out of nowhere at literally 6 AM, I don't mind it. So yeah. Now, to enjoy more videos like this and more isekai videos and anime videos in general in the future, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell. And if you guys haven't noticed, yeah, I'm pretty sick. I posted this on my community poll, but I've kind of still been sick while voicing this, and hopefully you didn't notice too much, but yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed anyways, and see you guys in the next video.